I took Dr. Jordan Peterson's Understand Myself personality test. Here are my results. Just a quick overview of how the quiz works is it's 100 questions, and then you write down how much you agree with the statements in the quiz. So, for example, it'll give you a statement that says, I am fearful of many things. And then you're going to have 5 selections to choose from. And that would be, I strongly disagree, I disagree, I neither disagree or agree, I agree, or I strongly agree. After you answer all those questions, it gives you a summary of what your personality is, and it goes into depth on each thing you are, and it ranks you in percentiles. And just in case you don't know how a percentile works, here's the exact definition. A percentile indicates where you stand on a particular trait with respect to the population. A percentile score of, say, 63 indicates that your score is high or higher than 63% of the population. So, for example, if I was in a room with 100 people and I was in the 63rd percentile, that means I am higher than 63% of the people at that particular trait. When I took this personality test, I tried to be very honest with myself and tried to put myself in other people's shoes and not try and answer the questions of who I want to be, but who I am currently. I didn't want the answers to be distorted whatsoever. This test gives you percentiles out of the 5 big factors, and each of those are agreeableness, extraversion, conscientiousness, openness, and neuroticism. Here are my scores for those, and then we're going to go into depth into what each of them mean and how they relate to me. So agreeableness, I ranked in the top 71 percentile. Extraversion, 94 percentile. Conscientiousness, 80 percentile. Openness, 78 percentile. And neuroticism, 6 percentile. I ranked pretty high in everything except neuroticism. So that means that if I was in a room of 100 people, there's going to be 94 people that are more neurotic than me. So more crazy. I'm pretty stable-headed. Let's get into what all that means. For agreeableness, I ranked moderately high. You are moderately high in agreeableness, which is the primary dimension of interpersonal interaction in the Big 5 personality trait scientific model. 2 aspects of agreeableness are compassion and politeness. Your score puts you in the 71st percentile for agreeableness. Agreeableness is a very complex trait with marked positive and negative elements all along its distribution. Because of this, higher scores and lower scores need to be explained at the same time. People high in agreeableness are nice, compliant, nurturing, kind, naively trusting, and conciliatory. I'm very nice, pretty compliant, very nurturing, very kind, and I can be naively trusting at times too. So I agree with that 100%. However, because of their tendency to avoid conflict, they often dissemble and hide what they think. I also think that might be true too. I'm very conflict avoidant, so a lot of times I'll just keep my mouth shut about shit that I don't think matters. If it really is important to me, then I'll stand up and say something, but a lot of times I'll just be quiet. If it's not that big of a deal, then it's just why fight over it or why start anything that doesn't need to be started over it. People low in agreeableness are not so nice. They are more stubborn, dominant, harsh, skeptical, competitive, and in extreme, even predatory. However, they tend to be straightforward, even blunt, so you know where they stand. See, that's the thing with me is even though I'm high in agreeableness, you're always going to know where I stand, like 99% of the time. Even though I'm not going to say shit that's going to cause problems, I will say what I believe in any sort of argument or anything like that. I will stand up for what I believe. People with moderately high levels of agreeableness are seen by others as cooperative, warm, and considerate. They are likely to look for and even sometimes to see the best in others and are interpersonally tolerant, an attitude that is much valued by agreeable people. They do not like seeing someone's feelings get hurt and are concerned about the emotional state of others, preferring peace and harmony. They tend somewhat towards submissiveness rather than dominance. That's bullshit, all right? I'm not submissive at all, so that's bullshit. But I do agree why most people would be submissive of your high in agreeableness. I also do care about other people greatly. That is something that I'm very passionate about. Is I really want everyone else to be happy, and I care so deeply about people. So that makes 100% sense to me in my head. People with moderately high levels of agreeableness are somewhat forgiving, accepting, flexible, gentle, and patient. They tend to feel pity for those who are excluded, punished, or defeated. They generally feel that people should work cooperatively and are somewhat skeptical of competition. With its losers and winners, however, moderately agreeable people have to be careful not to be taken advantage of, particularly by disagreeable people, including those with criminal or predatory intent. They may also find it somewhat difficult to engage in arguments and may even avoid discussion, which I get in arguments, I don't avoid discussion, so that's why I'm like top 71 percentile. I'm I'm pretty high, but I'm not super, super high. I think the reason why I do rank so high is because of how compassionate I am towards other people. So that makes sense why I rank so high for that. They have to work at bargaining for themselves or negotiating for more recognition or power. They may have somewhat lower salaries and earn less money in consequence. All of this can produce a tendency for resentment and hidden anger, particularly among those who are high in neuroticism. Yeah, see, I ranked super fucking low in neuroticism, so I don't have to worry about that. Furthermore, because of their tendency to avoid or reduce conflict, moderately agreeable people may be tempted to sacrifice medium to long-term stability and function for the sake of short-term peace. This can mean that problems that should be solved in the present can accumulate counterproductively across time. Compassion, I ranked moderately high. For you are moderately high in compassion. Compassion is an aspect of agreeableness. The other aspect of agreeableness is politeness. Your score put you at the 77th percentile for compassion. If you were one of 100 people in a room, you would be higher in compassion than 77 of them and lower in compassion than 22 of them. Moderately compassionate people are interested in the problems of other people and other living things. They are concerned about helping other people and avoid negative emotion. They make time to do kind things for others, even when doing so may interfere with fulfilling their own needs. They have a noticeably soft side. Other people consider them sympathetic and nice and will turn to them for a listening ear. They are empathetic and caring. However, because they are so other-oriented, they may find it difficult to negotiate on their own behalf and may not get what they deserve. This may lead to feelings of resentment. I am super, super, super compassionate for other people. And I just care about people so much. I don't think it ever gets in the way of my own needs. I think the only time that may happen sometimes is when I start talking to like a girl, like in relationship wise, then a lot of times I'll put her first or like put her in, like make sure she's taken care of before myself. But I've gotten a lot better of making sure that I got to focus on me and make sure I'm good and being the best version of myself, which in turn will end up being better for her in the long run anyways. You are typical or average in politeness. Politeness is an aspect of agreeableness. The other aspect of agreeableness is compassion. You ranked in the 58th percentile for politeness, meaning if you were 1 in 100 people in a room, you would be higher than politeness than 58 of the people in there. So that's kind of disappointed. I thought it was more polite than 58 people out of 100, but I guess not. Typically, polite people can be differential to authority, but can also be challenging when necessary. They are not particularly obedient. They can be respectful, but will also push back if pushed. They are not made uncomfortable by the necessity of standing up to other people. Typically, polite people will avoid conflict reasonably, but are not completely averse to confrontation. I'd say that's a pretty good example for who I am. I'm not afraid to stand up for myself, and I'm not afraid of conflict. If it needs to be, then obviously I'm gonna step up and do it. But I'd rather not to fight or start any conflict, but I'm always gonna stand up for myself and the people I care about. Okay, I'm probably saying this shit wrong, but for conscientiousness, I ranked high. You are high in conscientiousness, which is the primary dimension of dutiful achievement in the Big Five personality trait scientific model. Conscientiousness is a measure of obligation, attention to detail, hard work, persistence, cleanliness, efficiency, and adherence to rules, standards, and processes. Conscientious people implement their plans and establish and maintain order. The two aspects of conscientiousness are industriousness and orderliness. If you were 1 in 100 people in a room, you would be higher in conscientiousness than 80% of the people. People high in conscientiousness are dutiful. They slog away until the work is done. They work hard and dislike wasting time. They are unlikely to procrastinate. If a highly conscientious person promises to do something, he or she will probably do it, even in troubled circumstances without excuses. They are decisive, neat, organized, future-oriented, reliable, and not easily distracted. I am very against wasting time. I try to be productive as possible at all times. Also, if I promise someone I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. I don't make promises I can't keep. I'm very true to my word, and like it said, even in troubled circumstances, they'll get it done. And that's how I am. Is like, if I promise you I'm going to do something, even if it's completely to go out of my own way to do it and it's going to be like a hassle for me, if I promise you I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, which is just who I am. Highly conscientious people are likely to obtain higher grades in academic settings and make good administrators and managers. They need to have everything in its proper place and then tend to be connected with detail. They want to do things by the book. Highly conscientious people can be more prone to guilt, although they are likely to organize their lives so they have very little to feel guilty about. Highly conscientious people are also susceptible to shame, self-disgust, and self-contempt. I do think I am more harsh on myself sometimes than I need to be, but at the same time, I feel like that's a good way for growth and evolution of self, because of me being more harsh on myself, it projects my growth. I'm never one to really do things by the book either. I kind of just go with what I feel is right, and even if it's outside the rules, I'm gonna do it. Like it just depends on what feels right in that circumstance. Individuals who are highly conscientious can react badly to failure, particularly if they are also above in neuroticism. They are judgmental and easily disgusted by their own moral transgressions, as well as those of others. They suffer shame and guilt when unemployed or otherwise unoccupied, even when that occurs through no fault of their own. Highly conscientious people are also fundamentally committed to personal responsibility. They tend to be convinced that those who work hard should and will be rewarded. Those who don't deserve their failure. They are more concerned than average with hygiene, moral purity, and achievement. They can tend towards micromanagement and control. I definitely agree with the whole personal responsibility part. I take 100% accountability for everything in my life. The reason I am where I am and everything that happens to me is because of me and my choices. Everything I've done has led up to this moment and where I am today. And I'm not going to blame anything on anyone else. I have to take accountability for putting myself in a position to be where I am now. I also would agree that not working or not having something that I'm working towards would be very unfulfilling and would be a lot in my mind to deal with it. I think it would be very hard for me to not have any goals or any dutiful work, I guess. You are high in industriousness. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It is an aspect of conscientiousness. Your score puts you at the 82nd percentile for industriousness. Highly industrious people are likely to be successful in school and in administrative and managerial positions. All right, whatever. They value work highly and typically want to do something useful. They are dutiful and tend to not put things off. They do not often mess things up. They always finish what they start and they do it on schedule. They are frequently figuring out how to accomplish more in less time with fewer resources. They have focus. Highly industrious people are also likely to judge shirkers or people who are incompetent quite harshly and want them out of the way. They are likely to believe that people fail because they don't apply themselves and work hard enough. They feel guilty rapidly if they do not do their duty. However, because they typically stay on or ahead of schedule and accept their responsibilities, they rarely experience actual guilt. For this, I would definitely agree. I'm a hard worker, especially when I have goals and things I'm working towards. If I am doing a job, I'm going to bust my ass off and get that done. I would say I do kind of put things off sometimes, so I wouldn't agree with that. But for the most part, if I schedule something, I'm going to get that done on that date and at that time I scheduled it. I definitely am always trying to figure out how to do more in less time and be as productive as possible. I also try not to judge people. However, I do find it very hard not to when someone is lazy. I really dislike lazy people, especially when I have to work with them and I feel like I'm busting my ass and they're not doing anything and still making money, but they're just like the laziest people. That does kind of piss me off and get to my head. For orderliness, I ranked moderately high. I ranked in the 71 percentile. Moderately orderly people can be somewhat disturbed, even disgusted by mess and chaos. They would rather keep everything tidy and organized. They think in comparatively black and white terms. Things are basically good or bad, acceptable or unacceptable, and with less room for gray areas. They tend both to make and stick to schedules. They like everything where it should be and are happier if it stays where it should be. They are somewhat detail-oriented but tend not to be obsessive. They are generally aware of social rules and tend to abide by them. They like routine and prefer the predictability. They can be good at ensuring that complex, sensitive processes are managed properly and carefully. I really don't like messy places or untidy places. Everything I have is like organized in a certain way that makes sense to me and feels right. But what I don't like is things just being thrown around everywhere and just gross, like messy places. I can't stand it. I just get grossed out by it. How can you not keep your space clean? Orderliness can constrain creativity. However, as creative endeavors often require mess, disruption, and intervening periods of chaos, some moderately orderly people who are high in openness may have some trouble letting go enough to indulge in their creativity. I think I would agree with that somewhat. I really like being creative, but oftentimes I just don't put in the time to actually do it. I love writing, for example, but I just don't give myself the time to write, really. I just always am doing other things. For extraversion, I ranked very high. You are very high in extraversion, which is the primary dimension of positive emotion in the Big Five personality trait scientific model. Extraversion is a measure of general sensitivity to positive emotions such as hope, joy, anticipation, and approach, particularly in social situations. The two aspects of extraversion are enthusiasm and assertiveness. Your score puts you in the 94th percentile for extraversion. If you were 1 in 100 people in a room, you'd be higher in extraversion than 94 of them. Since extraversion and introversion are poles that denote the ends of the spectrum for this trait, you can also think of yourself as being very low in introversion. People with very high levels of extraversion are very enthusiastic, talkative, assertive in social situations, and gregarious. They are highly energized by social contact and crave it. They find great pleasure in planning parties, telling jokes, making people laugh, taking part in community activities. They typically have positive memories of the past, high levels of current self-esteem, and experience far above average optimism about the future. Now, just to walk you guys through this, there's a lot, and I agree with almost 99% of this. I am definitely very highly energized by social contact. I love gatherings and I love being around people. I try to surround myself with people as much as possible because I just love communicating and talking with others. And I worked in retail for like 4 years. I was constantly talking to new customers and new people daily, and I just enjoyed it. It does make me smile and make me happy talking to other people and learning about them and hearing their story. I do have a lot of positive memories about the past, too. I look back at the past fondly, think about all the great times that I've had and all the great experiences I've made. It's a very positive thing for me to look back on, and I'm very, very happy that I have those memories. I also say I do have high levels of self-esteem. I fucking love myself, and I feel like I'm a great person, and I don't know, when I look at myself, I feel good about who I am. And the last thing I want to address is the experience far above average optimism about the future. Holy shit, I am probably the most optimistic person you will ever meet in your life. I am almost delusionally optimistic, I think. I have such high hopes, and I believe in the good faith of people. I believe that we as a community and as people genuinely want to do good. I don't think people are out to hurt people. I don't know. I'm just super optimistic. I see the best things in everyone, and that can lead to me getting hurt sometimes. But I think it talks about that, so we will address that later. Let's continue. People who are uncommonly extroverted have very difficult time keeping things to themselves and tend to tell everyone everything. They are very self-disclosing, and they warm up rapidly to other people. They speak first, and most often in meetings, they can be extremely captivating and convincing. They will also often be the first to act. I definitely think that's true too, because whenever I have something on my mind, I love talking to everyone about it. Especially if it's like a new idea, I will bounce that off so many people to get their feedback and their reactions from it. People who are very high in extroversion make strikingly enthusiastic employees and are very well suited to jobs involving sales, persuasion, working in groups, and public speaking. They are not at all suited to occupations that require a lot of isolated work, such as computer programming or accounting. People very high in extroversion can also be highly impulsive, particularly when it comes to having fun in social situations. They tend strongly to sacrifice the future to the present. When something social or group-oriented beckons, it is hard for them to be alone and study and work. They can be very easily distracted by opportunities to chat, joke, and socialize. This is particularly the case if they also are low in conscientiousness. When individuals are extroverted and conscientious, they are more productive than if they are introverted and conscientious. People very high in extroversion are highly dominant in social situations, particularly if they are also low in agreeableness. Less agreeable extroverts tend to be self-centered, something that can be made worse if they're also low in conscientiousness. I am high in agreeableness, so I think that's a good thing because I'm not very self-centered. I don't really have a problem passing up on a time to go hang out with people or go to a party if I have work I'm doing. I do think it's hard to do that at points because I do like interacting with people so much. However, when I have shit to do, I have shit to do, and I'm going to get that done. Enthusiasm, I ranked very high. You are very high in enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is an aspect of extroversion. The other aspect of extroversion is assertiveness. Your score puts you in the 94th percentile for enthusiasm. Individuals who are very high in enthusiasm are uncommonly excitable, happy, and easy to get to know. They will talk very rapidly about everything, particularly other people. They laugh or giggle frequently. They must be around people almost all the time, and they love parties. They cannot keep people at a distance and keep nothing private. They are very positive and optimistic. They warm up very quickly to other people. They love and crave stimulation, excitement, activity, and fun. Enthusiastic people are gregarious, encouraging, and people-loving. They are strikingly positive about what might happen next. Again, I agree with all that. I am super all that. I love being around other people. Think I do talk very rapidly, especially when I'm in conversation. I don't really keep anything private. I'm pretty much an open book about 99% of things. I just don't have anything to hide. Like everything in my life, I'm open to talking about and disclosing. For assertiveness, I ranked high. You are high in assertiveness, an aspect of extroversion. Your score puts you in the 88th percentile. Highly assertive people are take charge types. They put their own opinions forward strongly and tend to dominate and control social situations. Assertive people can be influential and captivating. They have the communication style that is often associated with leadership. This is good when they are knowledgeable, competent, and able, but not so good when they aren't. Assertive people are people of action. They don't generally wait for others to lead the way. They can be more impulsive than average and can act without thinking. Now, I wouldn't say I'm like super high in assertiveness, but I definitely do like to take charge and lead people. I like to help others, and being like managing things and being in charge of things just feels right for me. I don't like other people leading me or like bossing me around. So I think that's probably why I have the high assertiveness. Neuroticism, I ranked very low. You are very low in neuroticism, which is the primary dimension of negative emotion. Neuroticism is a measure of general sensitivity to negative emotions such as pain, sadness, irritable, and defensive anger, fear, and anxiety. Two aspects of neuroticism are withdrawal and volatility. Your score puts you in the 6th percentile for neuroticism. If you were 1 in 100 people in a room, you would be lower in neuroticism than 93 of them. Let's go. People with very low levels of neuroticism almost never focus on negative elements, anxieties, and uncertainties of the past, present, and future. It is very rare for them to face periods of time where they are unhappy, anxious, and irritable, unless facing a serious, sustained, and complex problem. Even under the latter conditions, they cope very well. Don't worry and recover quickly. They are very good at keeping their head in the storm, and they almost never make mountains out of molehills. I would agree with that. I'm generally a very positive person, and it's hard for me to get irritated or upset about really anything, honestly. If I do get sad or upset or feel some type of way over it, I'm usually over it pretty quick. I'm such a positive person where I think it's just very easy for me to get over the hard times. They have much higher levels of self-esteem, particularly when they're also average or above average in extroversion. They're at much lower risk for developing anxiety disorders and depression. When good things happen to them, people with very low levels of neuroticism can appreciate it without questioning whether or not they deserved it. They're unusually satisfied with their relationships and careers. Overall, they are very tolerant of stress and can much more easily accept failure and setbacks as part of life. Very low levels of neuroticism are associated with markedly decreased concerns about mental and physical health, far fewer physician and emergency room visits, and very infrequent absenteeism at work and at school. People with very low levels of neuroticism can handle risk strikingly better. If they are average or high in extroversion or openness, they may even enjoy it. They are simply far less affected by uncertainty. They can much more easily handle recreational, career, financial, and social situations when the possibility of loss is higher. They can consider and even implement career changes and other transformations that could enhance their lives very easily. 100%. I agree with that so much. I am completely okay with take risk. I take risk all the time. And like it said, I even enjoy it. I love to bet on myself and take risks because, I don't know, it's just thrilling to me. It's very fulfilling as well. Withdrawal, I ranked low. You are low in withdrawal. This is an aspect of neuroticism. Your score puts you in the 15th percentile for withdrawal. If you were in a room of 100 people, you would be lower in withdrawal than 84 of them. Individuals low in withdrawal rarely suffer from or are impeded by anticipatory anxiety. They can handle new, uncertain, unexpected, threatening, or complex situations well. They are substantially less likely to avoid or withdraw in the face of unknown and unexpected. People with low levels of withdrawal tend to not feel sad, lonely, disappointed, or grief-stricken. And if they do, it's not deeply or not for long. They experience much lower than normal levels of doubt and worry, embarrassment, self-consciousness, and discouragement in the face of threat and punishment. They are quite resistant to and very rarely worried about social rejection, and rarely feel hurt or threatened. Even when actually hurt, frightened, or anxious, they recover easily and quickly. People with low levels of withdrawal are not worriers. Technically, withdrawal has been associated with activity in the brain systems that regulate passive avoidance. I agree and disagree because I definitely worry about stuff and I get stressed out, but not really. Like, I do about things I care about, but generally I don't worry about much. And I definitely don't worry about social rejection at all. I could care less what other people think. You're going to accept me for who I am or you're not. I have no control over it either way, whether you do like me or not. So I'm just going to be me and live the best way I can every day. I'm not going to exchange who I am for anyone else. If you like me, great. If you don't like me, great. Volatility, I ranked exceptionally low. Your score puts you in the 4th percentile for volatility. If you were in a room of 100 people, you would be lower than 95 people. I think that's good. Individuals exceptionally low in volatility are extraordinarily stable and predictable in their moods. They are virtually never irritable and very rarely experience disappointment, frustration, pain, and loneliness. People find them extremely easy and calming. They very infrequently express their frustration, disappointment, irritability, and appear remarkably reasonable when they do so. Even on those unusually infrequent occasions where they do become stirred up, upset, or angry or irritated, they calm down almost immediately. They are not at all argumentative and almost never lose their composure. And holy shit, another thing I cannot agree more with. It is so hard for me to get pissed off or irritated. I am very, very cool-headed, and it takes a lot for me to get irritated or just over the top, stirred up, or frustrated about anything. It takes a lot. I think most people do find me extremely easy and calming. I don't get mad. I don't get frustrated. It's very hard to take me off because I'm so compassionate and so empathetic. I don't really express negative emotions to people. It's not something that I really feel, and if I do, it's very rare and very short-lived. Even if exceptionally provoked in a dispute, a person very low in volatility will rarely react in kind. Such people remain calm and undisturbed even when extraordinarily stressed. Volatile people tend to get upset if something bad does happen, while people high in withdrawal tend to be concerned that something bad might happen. Technically, volatility has been associated with activity in the brain systems that regulate fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah, I don't know. If something bad happens, I don't really get upset about it. It's life. Shit's not going to go your way 100% of the time. So I'm just very understanding that shit's not going to be perfect and it's going to be hard at times. You just got to keep moving forward and keep pushing. Just like the good old saying, it ain't all sunshine and rainbows, baby. Now we're talking about openness. I ranked high. You were high in openness, which is the primary dimension of creativity, artistic interest, and intelligence in the Big Five personality trait scientific model. Openness is a measure of interest in novelty, art, literature, abstract thinking, philosophy, as well as sensitivity to aesthetic emotions and beauty. The two aspects of openness are intellect and aesthetics. Your score puts you in the 78th percentile for openness. If you were 1 in 100 people in a room, you would be higher in openness than 70%. There's 78 of them, and lower in openness than 21 of them. People with high levels of openness are much more likely than average to be characterized by others as smart, creative, exploratory, intelligent, and visionary. They are highly interested in learning and continually acquire new abilities and skills. They are very curious and exploratory. They find themselves unusually interested in abstract thinking, philosophy, and the meaning of belief systems and ideologies. They will seek out cultural events such as movies, concerts, dance recitals, plays, poetry, readings, gallery openings, and art shows. They are very likely to enjoy writing or even be driven to write. They enjoy complex, abstract ideas and love to confront and solve complex, abstract, and multidimensional problems. That sounds pretty much right. I love to read. I love learning new things. Learning new skills is so fun to me. I won't master anything, but I'll pick up a lot of new things. I learned piano, just basic stuff. I learned card tricks. I love to read books. I'm reading 3 books right now. I love to write. I'm writing a book right now. And there's always so much going on, and I agree. I also love solving problems too, especially for business. I think that's why I'm also very entrepreneurial minded. Whenever someone has a business related problem, I love solving that. And it's so easy for me to figure it out for them. I don't know why that is. It's just how I think. They're very likely to be prolific readers with a strikingly wide range of interest. They have an atypical, broad, deep vocabulary. They can think and learn very quickly. They are very proficient at formulating new ideas and tend strongly to be articulate. People high in openness can see old images in new ways. They can formulate any single problem in a highly diverse range of ways. They can generate a very large number of problem-solving solutions. They seek change often to make things better, but also for the sake of change. Again, I love to read. I'm reading 3 books at once, and I'm writing a book right now, so it makes sense. I also think I'm very good at putting myself and looking at it through all angles and all lenses of life. So when I do see a problem, I'm able to give myself multiple solutions and then decide which solution will be the best going forward. People who are high in openness are less well adapted to and tend to do less well in situations or occupations that are routinized, and predictable. They do not fit very well at the bottom of hierarchies. They are typically ill-suited to entry-level, repetitive, and rote positions, because they're also always thinking of new ways to do things, and such ideas are seldom welcome from someone at the bottom. They are radical thinkers. They shake things up, particularly if they are also disagreeable and assertive. They are somewhat more likely to be revolutionary rebels, particularly if average or below average in conscientiousness. I think that's why I don't like jobs working for other people, because I am such like a problem solver and a thinker and like doing ways my way. I don't like people telling me what to do. I like coming up with my own solutions and doing things a way that I figure out how to do them and what I think's best. Now, it's not saying that I can't take constructive feedback and criticism, but I do find ways that I think work best for me, and then I go forward with that. I have a hard time just being at the bottom of a hierarchy. I want to build something huge, and I think that goes back to the thing we said earlier, is I like leading people and being in charge. Individuals high in openness tend strongly to be entrepreneurial in spirit. There we go. Sounds about right. As well as smart and creative. They have much higher than average interest in creating new ventures, sometimes for profit, sometimes for curiosity, and sometimes for personal transformation. High levels of openness appear necessary to the formation and leadership of business and other forms of complex organizations, although the conscientiousness appears required for the attention to detail and process management that such organizations also need. Because people who are high in openness tend to be interested in almost everything, this can make it harder for them to settle on a single path in life, to specialize to a necessary degree, and to create an integrated identity. This problem can be exaggerated if they are high in neuroticism and or low in conscientiousness. People characterized by the combination of high openness and high neuroticism often undermine their own convictions and beliefs by questioning and making themselves lost and anxious. Open and conscientious people tend to be underachievers. Such people have the capability to succeed, can learn quickly, and are creative, but they have some trouble implementing their ideas. I definitely think that being interested in almost everything is definitely me. I'm interested in so many topics and so many wide varieties of ideas and facets of life. Like, it's just, there's so much different things that I love to talk about, discuss, and learn about. And I don't really think there's much that I'm not interested in. I love so much things, and I'm just so curious about so much. So it's very easy for me to be compelled to learn more and be fascinated by new things. But I also see why it's very hard to choose a path, because there's just so much that interests you. And I definitely have had that problem at points where it's just, God, there's so many ideas and so many things I can pursue. What one do I do? But I think that's just more so of a discipline thing and deciding, all right, there's this one thing, I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to write it out through the humps, the goods, the bads, everything. You just got to go through it and stick it out, which I think I've had a problem doing in the past, but I'm getting better at that. I ranked high in intellect. Your score puts you at the 86th percentile for intellect. Let's go, baby. I'm smart. Do not confuse the personality aspect of intellect with IQ. Intellect is a measure of interest in abstract ideas, essentially, while IQ is a measure of processing speed, verbal ability, working memory, and a problem-solving capacity, and it is better measured with a formal IQ test. It is perfectly possible to have a high IQ and a low score on the personality trait of intellect. I don't know what my IQ is, but I got a high score on intellect, so that's good, I guess. People high in intellect are quite interested in ideas and abstract concepts. They enjoy being confronted with novel information, even when it's complex. They are substantially more curious and exploratory than average, and frequently like to tackle and solve problems. They will actively engage and seek out and initiate issue-oriented discussions, and are likely to read, think about, and want to discuss idea-centered books, most frequently nonfiction. They are generally articulate and can formulate ideas clearly and quickly, particularly if above average or higher in extraversion. They have a wide vocabulary and actively enjoy learning new things. People high in intellect will often find and generate novel, creative concepts and voluntarily search for and adapt well to new experiences and situations. I think that's true. I definitely like to discuss so many topics with my buddies. I think one of my favorite things is going and talking about new ideologies and ideas with the people I love and care about, and just anyone really, just discussing these deep, complex topics. It's just so interesting to see how everyone perceives things, because everyone's perspective is so different. I just love being able to hear and see all sides People high in intellect find complex, rapidly changing occupations for their liking and will generally do well at them. However, they are substantially less well suited to stable, straightforward, and more traditional occupations, where the rules don't change and will experience frequent periods of boredom and frustration in such positions. Yeah, I think so. I think I need a high level of stress for me to stay not bored. I feel like I can't have routine in that aspect, an aspect of like the job where it's just very straightforward. You're doing the same thing. I like the change. I like the challenge of answering complex questions and solving problems. I think that's what makes like business so compelling to me, is because it's just, there's no straight path to it. There's no easy way. You have to work and figure out so much stuff. There's always a new obstacle going ahead of you, and so it keeps you always challenging yourself and working, and it's always something new. It's never the same thing. Aesthetics, I rank typical or average. Your score between the 57th percentile for aesthetics. In the original Big Five aspect skill model, the openness factor was entitled openness to experience, and its aspects were called intellect and openness. For the sake of clarity, we have deviated from this and used openness or openness to experience to refer to the factor level trait, and intellect and aesthetics to refer to its aspects. Generally speaking, a person's aesthetic score reflects their creativity. People who are average in aesthetics find beauty reasonably important. They may enjoy an outlet for their creative ability, but will not wither away without it. They can appreciate art and beautiful crafts. They are somewhat sensitive to color and architectural form. They sometimes enjoy collecting, but it's rare for them to pursue it passionately. I enjoy collecting, but I don't pursue it heavily. I collect like these Nike jumpsuits. I have a few of those. I have Funko Pops, the little toy character guys, baseball cards, stuff like that. I enjoy collecting, but I'm not like a serious pursuer of it. Another thing is I'm very appreciative of art, and I like being creative and having like my creative forms, but without it, I'd be just fine too. I'm okay just living life without it. Like I'm not going to wither away like it says without it. They are reasonably imaginative and may daydream and reflect on occasion. They tend to enjoy music often in more conventional popular forms and may be somewhat musical or artistic themselves. They do not generally become so immersed in a book or movie or in their own thoughts that they lose touch with the outside world. They are interested in, but by no means obsessed with beauty, creativity, and art. I do like reading. I do enjoy movies. I daydream sometimes, but it's not something that takes over my whole mind. I don't get lost in it. I'm still always thinking about the outside world. I don't get it so immersed into something like that where it's just like everything else is gone. I'm still very conscious of where I'm at and who I am and everything surrounding me. They tend to be quite stable and reasonably conventional. At least moderate levels of creativity tend to be necessary for entrepreneurial success and prove comparatively useful at the top of hierarchies, even in very conservative occupations such as banking, accounting, and law, which need creative people in leadership positions to provide new vision and direction. Let's go. That's my personality trait report. Holy shit, that was a lot. But I think I agree with almost all of it. Of course, there's going to be some little things that I don't agree with, but like 95% of that, I would say, describes me pretty well, and it gives me a unique insight onto who I actually am. And I think it's so fascinating learning about that and understanding who I am better, because when you truly understand yourself, then you can understand why you do things, and you're able to see things happen and react to things before the situation even occurs. It's just understanding yourself is just such a beneficial thing for everyone to do. And so I think that was a very cool experience, and I'm very happy I did it. It feels good, just knowing that, all that about me, because it all makes sense and it all just sounds right to me. And I also think it's cool because everyone's so unique. Everyone's scores are going to be different. And I think that's such a cool thing, is how everyone has their own stories, their own uniqueness, and are so different and beautiful in their own ways. And I think that's awesome. Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it. I appreciate y'all for watching this whole thing if you made it here, and that's who I am. So with that said, I'll see y'all soon. Peace.